It's a new super-fast version of the BMW M3. And we had the devil's own job thinking where we could test it. Then it struck us. It was obvious. The Isle of Man. This is the CSL. A trixied-up, hunkered-down road racer that's come among us, shaved, spruced, and wearing a £58,000 suit. So, why the Isle of Man, then? This little island in the middle of the Irish Sea is most famous for motorcycles. But there's so much more to it than that. There are castles. This one is home to the Morvey-Doo, a huge dog that terrifies people to death. Nigel Mansell used to live here. Rick Wakeman and Norman Wisdom still do. It's like Beverly Hills, with kippers. There's tradition too. This place is home to the first ever water wheel, an old train, some cottages, and the oldest parliament in the world. And now we're getting to the nub of the reason why I came, the politics. You see, the Queen is the head of state here, but the Isle of Man is not in the EU, and Tony Blair is not the Prime Minister. Which means that when you get out of the villages, there are no speed limits. They haven't really heard of the nanny state here. And you're taxed at 10%. And there's nothing to stop me going round this corner like this. This then is the ideal place to test the most hardcore BMW ever made. To save weight, which is the killer in any good car, you don't get electric seats, you don't get air conditioning, you don't even get a radio. Think of it as a BMW with bulimia. I suspect if you brimmed the tank right to the top, it would find that an affront to its weight-saving programme and would simply vomit it all out again. And the diet isn't limited to the interior either. The roof, as you can see, is made from carbon fibre. The rear window is made from special thin glass. The boot lid is made from plastic. And the floor of the boot, and I'm not joking, is made from cardboard. This car is as light as a buttercup. But under here, you'll find the heart of a medieval Manx dog. You even look at that engine, they'll kill you. They've managed to squeeze 355 brake horsepower from a 3.2. It's unbelievable. And to show you how serious BMW are with this car, look at these tyres. They're like racing slicks. You have to sign a disclaimer before you buy a CSL saying that you understand that the tyres won't work in the rain or if it's a bit chilly. What a car. Of course, it isn't especially comfortable or quiet, and you can't put heavy shopping in the boot in case it falls through the cardboard floor. And you can't use it unless it's hot and sunny. And if it is hot and sunny, you'll melt because there's no air conditioning. And if rain is on the way, you won't know because you can't hear the weather forecast because there's no radio. Not the most practical car in the world then, but when you get out of the villages and into the Isle of Man's de-restricted inner centre, it is just incredible. Everything about this car is 10 or 20% better than I was expecting. And I was expecting it to be seriously good. I mean, the acceleration is just fabulously savage. The balance of the chassis of these tyres mean that you get so much G-force, you feel like your liver is going to let go of its mountings before the rear end starts to slide. And then there's the noise. Can you hear that? Oh. made for this place. It was just made for the Isle of Man. It is a remarkable machine, and as such it has a remarkable price tag of nearly 60,000. Of course, some say it can't possibly be worth 20,000 more than the normal M3. But this is not the first time BM have ripped out all the equipment, then jacked up the price. Remember the old CSL, the Batmobile that tore up Europe's racetracks in the 70s? Well, those of you with long memories will remember they made a road-going version of it. I used to have one of these a few years ago. I love the 70s-ness of them, the chrome wheel arches, and ooh, let's make the stripes a little bit brighter. You got them in lime green and orange. Look at those bucket seats. And the wood on the dash is exactly the same wood that you used to get on a Garrard 86 SB turntable. I used to have one of those as well, actually, come to think of it. I fear I also owned this record, but that's not important right now. What is important is that the old CSL came out in the middle of the 1973 oil crisis, sporting a price tag of £7,500. And that made this lovely little road car with its lightweight panels and its stripped-out interior more expensive than the most expensive Aston Martin. On that basis, the new car should cost £180,000. So at 60, it's a bargain. If I had to nitpick, and obviously I do, then I'd centre on this area here. I mean, the sport button, which makes it more sporty. Why? Why isn't it just more sporty all the time? The button that turns the traction control off. Again, why? Why isn't it off all the time? Then there's this one here that adjusts the ferocity of the flappy paddle gearbox. Why can't they just give me a manual? It could be so much simpler. Overall, though, I think the CSL is magnificent. Like the Isle of Man, it's a thorn in the side of the nanny state, a wonky roof tile in the health and safety executive's vision of perfect Britain. It's BMW at its absolute best. The thing is, though, I'm not sure that BMW at its absolute best is quite as good as Porsche at its absolute best.
No, I know what you mean. Perfect example, the 911 GT3 Porsche on the show last week. They're very similar. I mean, they're both stripped-out, lightweight, essentially track cars. But the 911, it's that bit more expensive, yeah, but it's that bit more powerful, it's that bit faster, it's just better, ultimately.
I agree, but we'll find out for sure now. Time to warm up our new Stig. So, wheel spinning off the line. Now remember, the tyres on this car don't work properly when it's cold or wet, and it's a bit of both out there today, so the Stig has really got his work cut out. Oh no, no, I thought we'd heard the last of musical cheese when the old Stig drowned to death. Now, Chicago. CSL's looking awfully twitchy. I should explain, new Stig likes music from TV commercials. You may know that as Boccherini's Minuet. He calls it the tune from the Building Society ad. He's sliding again out of Hammerhead. He's really having to fight this car. Ooh, that's quick. Coming up now to the last corner. Old CSL halfway through is 2 seconds quicker than the normal M3. Coming up to Gambon. We nearly did a Gambon. He's across the line. That was quick.
That was very quick. And can I just say, it looks like the newer, whiter, brighter Stig is going to be up to the job. That was pretty good.
I've got the time as well. Now, bear in mind, there's the standard M3 in the dry, 131.8. Okay? The GT3 we were talking about, in the wet, 127.
That's the fastest wet lap we'd ever
Fastest. Now, I'm going to call that trap. Bear in mind, Stig did that on the CSL's ludicrous tyres.
The near slick thing.
Near slicks, in the damp, so we'll call that a wet lap, okay? He did it in 1 minute, 28 seconds.
Good grief!
Goes there.
That's
1 minute 28.
That's very, very quick. I'm amazed.
We've got ourselves a good little stig there.
Yeah, we were right about the...
We were right about him, we were right about the car. Not quite as good as the GT3, but £15,000 cheaper.
Yeah.
Now, earlier on, we saw Jeremy driving this absolutely outrageous M3 CSL on the Isle of Man. And back here at home, this gave me and Hammond an idea. We thought, well, what about that car's bloodline? So we took these three, and we boarded a ferry, and we went to the Isle of Man. This is the M1, BMW's first, and so far only, mid-engined car. Back in the 1970s, BMW had the hump, because the Porsche 911 was winning absolutely everything in international sports car racing. And the Bavarians hate losing, almost as much as they like brass band music. So what they needed was a proper bespoke sports racing car, something that would be a real feather in their felt hats. And they came up with this, the BMW M1. And it was a disaster. First up, it wasn't a real BMW. Because it was a rush job, they had to get Lamborghini to do the design, engineering and production work for them. But Lamborghini went bust, meaning BMW had to start again with some other people. But before they could do that, they had to break into Lamborghini and take back all the bodywork molds. Otherwise, the receiver would have sold them for scrap. And that was just the start of their problems. For the M1 to qualify as a racing car, 400 had to be made and sold to the general public. But rather like that old CSL we saw earlier, there was a bit of a cost issue. In 1979 in Britain, the BMW M1 cost about £35,000, which sounds very reasonable, until you discover that the Ferrari 308 GTS was less than 20 grand. And here's another thing, look. GRP, or plastic to you, on a BMW. How much worse could it get? Well, while the car was being designed, the rules for sports racing cars were changed. So by the time it came out, it wasn't competitive anyway. What a farce. The real tragedy, though, is that this is a lovely car. The engine was BMW's own, a 3.5-litre straight-six developing 277 horsepower. Now, that doesn't sound that much, but it was also very light, just 1,400 kilograms. So 161 miles per hour and 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds isn't half bad. This is a 25-year-old supercar, and to be honest, I expected it to be absolutely dreadful, but it just isn't. It's easy to drive, and it's actually quite civilized. Maybe it's more of a BMW than we thought. In fact, I'd say that the M1 enjoys the distinction of being the world's first truly user-friendly mid-engined supercar. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough. The M1 became a bit like the toasted sandwich maker. Everybody raved about it for a bit, but then chucked it in the back of a cupboard and forgot about it. But it wasn't a complete waste of time, because BMW's engineers salvaged a couple of useful bits. The first was that M badge from the boot lid, and the other was the excellent race car-derived straight-six engine. And they came together again in something much more practical.
The M cars, probably the best race-bred road cars there have ever been. The M3 and the M5.
Now this is an important car, the original Super Saloon. Today all the big players make a four-door Formula One car. Jaguar's got the XKR, Mercedes the E55, Audi the RS6. There's no end of sensible, practical cars that'll happily rip your face off, and we owe it all to the M5.
This is a 1988 Series 2, my personal favourite.
It's bulletproof and a huge laugh. 0 to 60, 5.9 seconds. Top speed, 155 miles an hour. It's properly quick, but at the same time, sophisticated. I mean, sophisticated by modern standards. This is precisely the sort of car that makes me want to visit the Isle of Man more often. Whereas this makes me want to live here. The original M3. Not just a great road car, but the most successful saloon car racer ever. And that's why the M3 is simply unbelievably good on roads like these. It's got proper race car steering geometry. I mean, it's quick. 0 to 60, 6.7 seconds. Top speed about 143 miles an hour, 200 brake horsepower. It's the way it delivers that power. Listen to it. It's fantastic. I don't want to stop driving this.
So the M1 was a cocker. But what a cocker. If we had more like that, the world would be a better place.
Isn't the Isle of Man just amazing?
Oh, it's fabulous. It's like somebody's gone out and designed Top Gear Fantasy Island, especially for us.
I was absolutely blown away by those kippers.
Yes, the
All he went on about,
fantastic.
because there's no speed limits here, James. Oh, I know, but the kippers.
I'll have another
They
kipper.
were good, though. I've never driven a car that drives so differently to the way it looks, because that is not a four-seater saloon. It's a race car with that body on top of it. It's brilliant. And on those roads, it was just, oh, it was perfection. While we were on the Isle of Man, and we were there for a very long time, a bit of an argument brewed up. James reckoned that the best sports car you can buy is the Porsche Boxster. Pah! Obviously, I had to show him the error of his ways. Now, I love Porsche. I've got one, which makes it all the more significant when I say this. You can shove the Boxster. I'd rather have the Z4. It's a man's car. It feels like a proper roadster. You sit low down and right at the back, almost over the rear wheels, with a big bonnet stretching ahead of you. No, I don't care what you want to read into that. Feels great. And best of all, listen to that. Straight 6, 3-litre. That is a proper sports car's engine. Listen to that! This is a modern take on a proper old-school roadster. And I love it.
Rubbish! What you want is a Boxster. Some of you will be saying that's a soft Porsche for people who can't handle a 911, but that's rubbish as well, because what this is what the 911 was before it was turned into Liberace's boudoir. It's a proper sports car.
Because the Z4 is a modern car, it does all the usual clever stuff, but it's that bit more sophisticated. Things like the electric roof, 10 seconds from fully up to fully down. And that makes it the fastest electric roof in production. Fantastic. Just don't catch your time. And then there's the looks. I love them. I think BMW have got this challenging thing going on at the moment. And yes, at first glance, it's... but you get used to it and then you realise they're right. It looks superb.
Obviously, driving a convertible yellow Porsche raises certain sociological issues. I mean, some people are going to look at me, I know, and think I'm a merchant banker. But I'm not sure I'm terribly interested in all this brand attributes stuff. This is a great car, that's what matters. For all I care, you can take the Porsche badges off and stick some Hyundai ones on.
Do you know, mate, the more time I spend with it, the more sure I am I have picked the right car.
You haven't.
I am.
You haven't. The Porsches are more honest sports cars than that BMW.
Honest?
Absolutely.
You've got the wrong cars! Can you hear? You've got the wrong car!
Oh, God.
I've got the right one up here! Here!
I thought you'd gone home.
Welcome to the superb Honda S2000.
Let me give you the simple facts. This car is £5,000 cheaper than the BMW and £6,000 cheaper than the Porsche. And which is the most powerful? This one. This one is. The 2-litre VTEC engine in this is astonishing. At 6,000 RPM in the other cars, you have to change gear, but in this, there's 3,000 RPM still to go. 9,000 into third. That's what I call an engine. And this is legal.
But the power and the excitement is only part of the equation. The other bit is reliability.
In the last 13 years, Honda has made 15 million VTEC systems, and they have never, not once, had a single failure.
So it's powerful, extraordinary value for money and more reliable than a wood-burning stove.
The Porsche and the BMW, they've got great badges, but this is the essence of sports car motoring. Pure and simple.
And what was it that Richard was saying about the Z4 having the fastest roof in the world?
3, 2, 1, go.
Yes! Yes! Loser! Said in the book. Don't believe the Germans.
Who cares how fast your roof is, anyway?
You cared. You cared. I've got the fastest automatic electric roof in the world, and now it turns out you haven't.
Like your lawnmower, then?
It's going to push my starter button. Have you got one of those?
Odd rattling sound. Hold on.
That night I met up with the others at our house to explain why they were so wrong.
Your car is American. It doesn't work here. It rides like a Corvette.
I have to say I'm with you on the ride in the BMW
The
thing.
ride in the... It is atrocious, isn't it?
It is a bad
This
ride.
is exactly what we were after.
Look, it's a physical experience driving that car.
No, the physical
is
experience, the Honda is the one that... Are we agreed? The Honda is considerably the cheapest here.
It needs to be.
It's
because the interior is-
5,000 less than yours, 6,000
Yes, fair
less,
enough, okay.
and it's more powerful.
The reason the Porsche, I think, is the best car is, you know, when you drive some cars, you get a sense that the car is smiling when you're driving.
What?
Yeah. No, listen, hear me out. No, you drive some
Jean-Paul
cars
Sartre
and
is
and they're smiling.
Oh,
and it's
what's
got
this
too many
bulge
gears.
in my pocket? It's the £6,000 I've saved by buying the Honda rather than your Porsche.
But that's not an argument either.
It's worth £6,000 less.
Why don't you save 20 grand and buy a micro?
Precisely.
That's not an argument.
because
it's not the better car.
The next day we all drove each other's cars to see if we could reach an agreement that way.
Thing is, I've never spoken to a Boxster owner, ever, without them starting to talk about why they haven't got a 911. There's only one reason you buy a Boxster. One. Because you can't afford a 911. That's it.
There are a few things I don't like about this pink car. It's got too many gears, 6, not enough cylinders, 4, and it does too many revs, 9,000. So listen, it's harsh.
This ride is totally unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. It's an American car, that's why the ride's so hard, because hey, it's sporty. That's sporty, got no suspension, it's sporty.
That night we all met up at the pub to see what we'd all found out.
How many gears did your car have,
That would be
Richard?
6, Jeremy.
How many did my car have, do you remember?
I'm thinking it was probably 6 again. It was 6.
5 because it has
5.
better mid-range. No, it's got
Because it's
the
old-fashioned.
reason it's
Because
it would run out of puff if you got
Cheers, welcome, 6-gear man.
It's
It's so
buns, but
wussy.
here we
It's
are.
such a pair of wittering Nazi boys. I can't believe it. 6 gears.
Now, I should explain, we didn't drive home from the pub. We had our butlers take us home instead. And still the debate raged. Richard, for instance, and this is marvellous, actually said he liked the ruched leatherwork in the
That's
doors.
rubbish. It's not ruched.
It is ruched.
Slightly rippled a bit.
You said you thought that had a simple engine. Have you seen the cutaway
I
diagram?
said it was a simple
all the
Look,
No,
all right,
Jeremy,
stop. The one thing that we did agree on, OK, the one thing we agreed on was this would be settled on our track by Fresh Stig. So, we sent him out there, fastest lap wins. First up, the Porsche, and is it facing the right way, James?
Oh, yes, it is, and it will be all the way round thanks to that perfect weight distribution. First corner there, look at that balance, that's lovely.
Yeah, I tell you what, you can't actually see there, and that's the steering wheel. It's like that on a ship.
No, but this bit's going to decide whether you've got bad oversteer in a front drive car, and it's not going to do that because this has got the engine in the middle. It's going to be fantastic. Your cars are going to make a complete hash of this. Look at that. Come on, you Stig.
That's a bit wobbly.
No, it's not.
No, through the follow through. What? So boring. I'm falling asleep.
Has he spun it?
The speed of it there. Look at that. That is clearly a victorious lap. Absolutely beautiful
Is it
Stig. Fabulous final corner and across the line. Massive speed. Look,
And
it's an
now-
American plastic surgeon's car.
Look at it. Looks. Listen to this. Proper straight six. Massive speed already. Must be doing about 350 into the first corner there. Fabulous.
Of course, with its miserable 55-litre fuel tank, it'll have a job reaching the end of the lap. Oh, I'm nearly losing it there.
It doesn't actually need much fuel. The rate it's going, it'll be round in seconds.
It's an American car, more cup holders than cornering, I reckon. Look at that.
Here we go. Look, he held it. It's balanced. It's poised.
Slithering about.
Last couple of corners. Look at that. It's inspiring. I might cry actually. Gambon corner there. Oh, sounds great across that line. Oh dear, look what next. The Amstrad 2000, off it goes.
All the foregone conclusion, as I like to call it.
Stig probably baffled by the flashing lights all over the dashboard.
That's a clear, concise dashboard, if you ask me. And anyway, if you think about it, all proper race cars have digital readouts. The only thing baffling the Stig, in fact, is the power of this thing after the other two.
Oh, that annoying screaming noise from the front end. That engine is ridiculous.
That is precision engineering at its best. The Stig plainly loving it. He just loves it. Look, you can see.
He's not sure whether he's driving or in a Brown to Dixon's.
Just amazed by the speed through Gambon. Here he is, look at that, little bit of a
All
twinge,
over that
perfectly
shot.
held and across the line. Now, genuinely, we have absolutely no idea at this stage which one of the cars has won it. So we need someone from the audience, you're nearest. Could you just come and help us out here? Could you please reveal for us now the time done by the BMW Z4?
Be good. 1 minute 37. It's a good solid time. It was not good weather.
That's awful time. OK, and now the Porsche Boxster, 1:37.3 to beat. 1:37 dead!
Yes.
You're in the lead at the moment. You're already out of it, as I predicted. Probably ran out of fuel. OK, here we go.
Oh,
the
not
Honda
the
S2000,
ridiculous Honda.
1:37 to beat. Yes! That's all we've got time for. That's all we've got time for this week. I'm very sorry, but that's it. No voting.